If you're feeling like you're in a rut or you just can't seem to get out of it, maybe you feel like you've hit a wall creatively or you feel burnt out in your personal life or in your work life, then this video is for you. I know some of you might not want to hear this, but going on a trip, it just doesn't fix our burnout. And it doesn't make our life problems go away, because when we get back, it's gonna be right there waiting for us. I know because I've tried it myself. I've moved to different cities, to a different state, to a different country even. Let me just tell you, if you're burnt out, it's gonna follow you wherever you go. Because there's been so many times where I try to get away from my stress or my problems only to come back to them, and sometimes it even feels worse, and it is good for our soul. But at the end of the day, it's more of a temporary fix than it is a long-term solution to burnout. So today I want to give you some helpful tools to identify when you're leading up to burnout. How do you know if you're already in burnout? Hi besties, welcome back to the channel. If you're returning here, I'm so grateful that you're back. And if you're new, hi, my name is Krizia, and I'm on a mission to help you glow up from the inside out. So if that sounds like you, hit the subscribe button. I'm uploading weekly. Let's get into today's topic. Burnout is a complex stress response that affects the mind, body, and emotions. Basically, if you let daily stress pile up without checking in, it becomes burnout. So burnout is basically stress that isn't dealt with. And it gets to a point where a person gets so overwhelmed that you can't even cope anymore, which leads to mental and physical exhaustion. So you know you've hit emotional exhaustion when you feel like you can't even do the bare minimum tasks, like cleaning up the kitchen. Maybe you've been dreading doing your laundry for a long time now. Maybe there's this one minor task like sending an email, but you just keep putting it off. And that just overwhelming sense of feeling stuck. Some other signs are becoming more detached and looking at life in a more cynical way. For example, a person starts to distance themselves from socializing, from family, from friends, from kind of everything, and you just start to fall into this what's the point mindset. Very different from being an introvert. I mean this in a way where you just emotionally can't do it. It could even lead to a sense of numbness where you just don't feel excited about things, you don't feel enjoyment like in things that you used to feel excited about. You have a negative outlook on people very often, and it kind of starts to spiral into this habit of complaining, finding all the things that are going wrong in situations, or pointing out people's flaws more than usual. You just start to become overall really negative. If the body stress response is overactivated, it will produce more of a stress hormone called cortisol, which can lead to things like fatigue, headache, even getting sick or illness because of your weakened immune system. Stress is no joke. Experiencing negative emotions is human, it's normal, but if you get to a point where you feel like you can't regulate your emotions, that's a sign that you are experiencing burnout. I would say a lot of people think that burnout only happens in the work life, but burnout can show up in so many different ways. Burnout can be burnt out from family relationships, friendships. You could be burnt out with your own like emotional battles within yourself. You can be burnt out in so many different ways. When you start to feel like you have to prove something to show that you're worthy. Because what usually happens is, for example, you get a new job, or in my case, I got laid off from my job and I just went full blown into a new career. In those kind of transitional situations, there's usually a heightened chance that you can experience burnout later on if you're not monitoring your behaviors and your habits regularly and like doing regular self-care check-ins. Because when you feel like you have something to prove, whether it be to yourself, whether it be to a new job or in a new friendship or relationship or something, it starts off as being overly excited. Like you're ready to go all in. Maybe you got that new job and you're ready to prove why they made the right decision. So you start overworking yourself. You start staying late at night at the office or doing your work, and you start trying to prove yourself because you want to prove that you are worthy and that you are valid. At some point, when your passion becomes a career, you also have to figure out new boundaries. So I didn't really establish any new boundaries because I genuinely am having fun doing what I love to do for work. That's where there was a blurred line between the two. I accidentally let myself go a little too hard and go all in a little too much. And I felt like I had to just pull myself together, reassess, and say, okay, we need to make a couple of changes. This is this, this is that, and just kind of have that moment where I'm now setting new boundaries for this new lifestyle that I've created for myself. We're all going through very different situations, but experiencing similar emotions. You've never set boundaries in your relationship or in your family. Kind of lose yourself without realizing it because you're trying to attend to so many things and so many people that you just forget to put yourself first. Depending on how severe your burnout stage is, you may be so deep in it that even the smallest, simplest task might feel so far out of reach and impossible. Do not underestimate the power of some breath work in a moment where you feel so overwhelmed. Because I've noticed that if we don't physically do something with our body in a moment of being overwhelmed, we're only going to keep ourselves in the same place or let ourselves fall into a deeper hole. One of my favorite breathing techniques is the 4-7-8 technique, where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds. And you'd be surprised how often we're actually holding our breath, especially when we're doing things like scrolling on social media, on our computer, typing up emails, or even just shopping, browsing, whatever we're doing. We're actually holding our breath. Next tip that I found super helpful is setting micro breaks. One of the things that I've been doing lately is setting up short breaks in between my workday. So even if you work in an office or if you work at home, just taking a mindful break every hour to just stretch or, do some breathing, anything that's going to just break you away just for a very short period of time, and not allow that tension and stress to just take over you that entire day, because those little breaks in between really just help recenter yourself in that moment, and it prevents it from piling on. Just do a little walk, and if you can't leave where you work in a physical space, you can do a short walk to the bathroom, you can do a short walk anywhere to get a cup of coffee. So I like to do a short walk, get some air. The next tip is prioritize your tasks in a 3-3-3 rule. At the beginning of your day, list 3 things that you need to get done that day, and then 3 tasks that can wait, and then 3 tasks that you can possibly delegate. Let me explain. So at the beginning of the day, I actually use my notebook and I do my 3 things that I want to do in the day. These are things that are very, very important that usually I want to avoid and procrastinate if I could, and getting them done as early as possible will really help, because when we put off our tasks, especially the most important ones, these are the ones I'm talking about, the decisions and tasks that have a huge impact on your mental space, your emotional well-being. These are the things that they stay in the back of your mind throughout the day if you're not doing it, and it just feels really overwhelming. And those things, the more that you put them off, the deeper you're going to lead yourself into that burnout hole. So know, what things could I clear off of my plate today that will buy me back a little bit more time and a little bit more mental space. The 3 things that can wait are the things that if you can get your 3 big tasks out of the way, would come after that. So if you don't have time and you only are able to do the 3 most important tasks of your day, then so be it. But at least you know that those other tasks can be put off for a maybe later, maybe not today, but maybe another time. The last 3 things are the things that you can either drop or delegate. Are they really that important? Little tiny things that you're probably hanging on to because you want to get it done, but is it something that you actually need to do? Those are the little tiny things that could be taking up mental space in your mind, but you could probably delegate to another person or just dropping it altogether. Anything besides the top 3 most important things that you're doing in your day is just a distraction. One of the things that helped me the most in setting boundaries is learning how to say no. Learn to say no to scrolling on social media mindlessly. Learn to put your phone down. Like something I've been doing lately, if I feel like I've been just in a trance in my phone, like scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, which does happen. That's the whole purpose of those apps, is they want us to be hooked on them. So if you find yourself in that moment, one thing I've been doing lately is honestly throwing my phone on the bed carefully, not across the room, but if I'm near my bed, I'll just throw it on my bed and then walk away from it, because I almost have to like snap myself out of that moment, or else I can easily just keep scrolling even though I'm thinking about stopping. If you need like a quick way to ground yourself, one thing I like to do is physically hug myself, okay? I know this sounds crazy, but there's something about that sense of touch, and this is just a physical way of bringing me back to to the current moment, back to the present, and it helps ground you. Always, always practice self-compassion. I know we can be hard on ourselves, especially the thoughts that we have when we're feeling burnt out. It's usually very negative. Why did that person get this? If you're scrolling on social media, or why hasn't my turn come yet? Replace it with some self-compassion. You can say things to yourself like, you know, I'm doing the best that I can. I'm doing the best with what I can do right now. If you just did one thing off your to-do list, I'm really proud of myself. You're going through a rough time. It's understandable. Like, give yourself some compassion. The next thing, one of my favorite things to do is schedule time to do nothing. Every day I've been scheduling myself at least 5 minutes to do nothing. Not on my phone, not watching a show. Lay down, look at the ceiling for 5 minutes. Life-changing. This also ties into reducing your screen time. We're constantly updated now with people's life events. You know, before we even get a chance to think of our own, we're bombarded with what's going on in everybody else's world, online at least. And so we're getting these quick little dopamine hits throughout the day. Think of yourself as storage. You know, our phone has storage. There's only so much you could fit in it. So many pictures and videos you can load on your phone. But the same thing goes for us. Us humans, we have storage limits. That's why we need to place boundaries. Looking to be entertained, looking for those quick dopamine hits. I try to be super mindful of when I even open the app, because you can be in a good mood and the second you open an app, you see something that triggers you, and it feels like you have to spend a long time undoing that feeling now. So sometimes I try to avoid my phone altogether, and it's a little difficult because for me, it is now my work. Maybe give myself 20 minutes to scroll, and that's it. Another thing is it's super, super important to unplug right before bed, especially at least an hour before bed. I'm a culprit of not doing this sometimes, but I definitely like to catch myself in those moments where I'm slipping and I remind myself, this isn't healthy. We're feeling overwhelmed and burnt out. It probably has a lot to do with the fact that I'm thinking all these things before I go to sleep. This is a time where it becomes helpful to replace those habits with something healthier, because it's not always easy to just drop something and just not be on your phone because you feel like you need to be doing something, because you've probably trained yourself to be used to that by now. I like to trade in my phone time before bed with journaling before bed. The next thing I want to talk about is the 2-minute rule, because when we are feeling burnt out, the last thing we need to do is let little things pile up on our to-do list. So if something takes less than 2 minutes, the rule is just do it right then and there, so it doesn't add to your burnout and it doesn't add to your mind of subconscious things to do. Something as simple as, if you make breakfast and you don't put the eggs away right after you're done making breakfast, you might go sit on the couch and then think of, oh, I forgot, I have to go put the eggs away, I have to go clean up my mess, when you could have just done it right then and there, and you could have actually had more quality time relaxing after that. If they take less than 2 minutes, just get it done, out of the way immediately. Of course, reaching out for help is so, so crucial. You know, if you have a therapist or if you want to seek out a therapist, now would be the time to do so, because honestly, I know a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this myself, I've always been used to doing things on my own, and I thought I could always get myself out of it, which we technically can, but do whatever works for you. But seeking out help is so important. Especially when we're already burnt out, we don't need to handle everything ourselves. Sometimes all we need is a fresh perspective on what we're going through to really help us pull ourselves out of it. If you made it to the very end of this video, I want you to comment down below, I got this, so I know that you made it to the end. And if you have any experiences with burnout or any tips that I may not have covered in this video that you'd like to share, leave them in the comments below and let's get a positive thread going. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.